And I have on the back table, I have some cookies and some little bottles of water, if that helps.
Cookies are really good.
Yeah, they're good.
They're oatmeal there. Oatmeal. And, okay, so, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I think the first thing we need to do is a voice vote of the minutes from last time, so thank you for remembering that every time. So, do you pass out the
Yeah,
minutes?
they're on the down table.
Okay.
All the tables.
Okay, so, unless there's any objection to anybody wanting to look it over, then, please, if you approve of the minutes from the November 10th meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Great, thank you very much. So, Mrs. Chapin, are you ready to do your principal's report?
We received a check from the PTA today for the document cameras, and so I signed the purchase order this afternoon for 13. So they should be here within the week. So thank you. We'll get those out to teachers, and everybody's really excited about that.
Yay. That's great.
The acting superintendent is presenting his budget proposal to the school board tonight. The principals were briefed on it this morning, and we can't really share the information because it's embargoed until the presentation tonight. But pay attention. There's going to be some room for some advocacy and some parents making sure that Board of Supervisors knows that we value the system and what we need and all of that. So, the information will be out tomorrow in the press. So we'll be, we can share some information, once the timing of our meeting is kind of bad because I can't share. We're also involved in which was another meeting this morning, was to provide input for the search for the new superintendent. That's kicking off. There are opportunities for anyone in the community, parents, community members, whatever. There's a list on the website of times that you can go to somewhere, and they're all over the county, to provide input to the search firm that is looking. It's the same firm that we used when we hired Dr. Garza, and so they met with the principals this morning, or the elementary principals, and we did some things to provide some input. So that's going on. They're hoping to be doing interviews in March and second interviews in April, and having somebody ready to come on board July 1st. So that's good. Our proposal for level 4 passed through Region 2 and has been submitted to the leadership team. So, everything's on track with that. So it should be fine.
That's great.
Yep. So we're, continuing to talk about that. And, everything's going fine. No snow days so far. 3-day week next week. So I am going to be going out of town next week, so I won't be here. But everything will go rolling along just fine. So, it's, been a good year. Any questions, comments? What?
I got an email about an effort at Oakton High School to establish a pantry.
I saw that.
Is it something you'd be interested in me attending or talking about? Or?
We work with Food for Others, and some of you have been involved in preparing those or counting out the little weekend power packs that are sent home with some of the kids. I'm not sure our community would go that far. Oakton is might as well be around on the other side of the world.
Oh, I think that it was an effort at Oakton High School to learn about how to establish a pantry at your own school. So it would be like establishing a closet, or I guess a free space where you could drop things off and pick things up, and then pick things up.
Our biggest issue is storage space, for things like that. If you wanted to go find out about it, I don't know if we might want to partner with maybe some of the other schools. We are in a partnership with Mason Crest and West Lawn for a thing called school readiness teams, and we work with preschool providers and Head Start and SAC and all kinds of people from the county and all. We meet once a month, and I don't know if that might be a partnership, you know, something that group might want to be involved in, but yeah. But we typically, you go to Food for Others, and I know that Food for Others is in the community at least once or twice a week with. Any other questions?
Thank you very much. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some upcoming events. The next PTA event is we have restaurant night on January 26th, which was, I think there was a flyer in today's Thursday folder, and I forgot to put it in the weekly email, but it'll be in the weekly. So it's Paisanos Pizza, and I think you can order. They'll like if you order a pizza for delivery. I think it's done on Little River Turnpike. And if you order the pizza for delivery, they'll give a part of the proceeds to Woodburn. So we're going to be trying to promote that. There's a restaurant night in February the 28th that Aaron Ossett, one of our volunteers, got Chipotle for restaurant night over at Merrifield, at that Merrifield Shopping Center. So that was so cool because I told her, I was like, try to get a restaurant night over in Merrifield because it might get, you know, because some of us live like that way, but some of us live this way too. So she got Chipotle, and Chipotle gives you half of proceeds if you say you're there for the school. So we're going to try to do a big push on advertising for that to get people to go to Chipotle that night. February 28th. After that, we have movie night on. Movie night is on February 24th. So movie night is before Chipotle. That's Friday, February 24th. I did a little survey that I posted on Facebook and put in the Thursday email to vote on what movie you want to watch. Angry Birds did win the vote last time. We found it did kind of lose kids' attention by the end, but that may be true for any movie. So please let us know what you think is a movie that your kids really want to go see, and maybe that wouldn't lose them like 20 minutes in and have them running around the gym for 45 minutes, but not your kids.
I think that's almost irresistible.
It's probably,
no matter how good the movie is, that's how it's going to end.
It's probably not the movie, right? It's probably just the kids.
They're just happy to be together.
Yeah. Yeah. But I was like, it'd be good if we could get a better movie next time. But so we had a bunch of great suggestions. We had a PTA board meeting a couple nights ago and generated some suggestions, and then John Alexander's daughters know that I'm on the hunt, so they keep telling me, we voted again, and this is what we think this time. So they have some ideas too. It's good to get from the ground level troops. So please let me know or take the survey to see what movie night we should show. We do have a mom who's volunteering to lead that event. Katie Brophy is organizing, which is awesome. So she's not here tonight. That's really great. We'll have concessions as usual. So that is, and then we have, after that we have March 3rd is the Wildcat Dance. So dance is so fun. We have the same DJs as last year for these like crazy retired couple who like play kickin' music, and it's really fun. So we'll have a photo booth again. This year Jenna Von Elling is willing to do the photo booth again, which is so great. And the one thing about the dance is you have to stay, so because it's very important to have the chaperones. But I really enjoyed it last year. My daughter really enjoyed it, so excited to have that again. And the dance is free, so we'll be. So since the dance is free, we don't do any like pre-registry, right? Yeah.
You
sell things, right? You sell, the sixth graders sell.
Oh yes, so I need to contact the sixth grade teachers to set up, because they're gonna do concessions, right?
They typically do. We can check with them.
Sure.
Yeah,
And that's March 3rd?
March 3rd.
March 3rd. Okay.
Yeah, so everything is booked. The DJs are booked. The gym is booked. So it's just a matter of advertising and then seeing if the sixth grade wants to sell concessions, which I assume they will, because they'll make the money for their end of year program.
Last year you had like a little marketplace downstairs.
Yeah, yes,
Are
okay.
you thinking of doing that again?
I
or-
would be happy to do that again. I asked you, was it a scowl or no?
No,
Okay.
it was like people paid for those. I mean, you know, it was a fundraiser, like they paid to have a table there.
Okay.
So you might wanna
I
find
have to
out from
find the
Peggy
lady,
Tripp.
yeah, I think Laura Wright told me who organized that, I just
think
haven't
it was
reached out to her
Peggy.
yet. What, who?
Was it Peggy Tripp last year?
I
Okay.
know she's done it in the past, I don't know if she was
Yeah, I
last
don't
year.
remember if she did
Okay,
last year.
so let me find out, cause I know,
Yeah,
and I
'cause
know
you'll
that
need
there's.
to get on, you know,
I
try
know,
to-
yeah.
It wasn't a scout, it was just like, trying to think,
Yeah.
wait a minute.
Thinking.
I mean, yes,
So
of course.
That does require some.
Yeah, I mean, and
advanced
of course, since we've got the parents here, it's a great
Yeah.
opportunity and a great thing, yeah, so we'll definitely, I'll try to send out emails on that tomorrow
Mhm.
to start getting that, cause I know others have approached me about doing like a vendor fair here, so this is
Yeah.
the chance to do it, so.
Yep.
Okay, and then, so I'm gonna talk just a little bit about what's gonna happen at the next 2 PTA meetings. So it's kind of funny, PTA is like, when you're doing the calendar, which I had to sit down with Bridget and do in the summer, it's kind of funny that like the first half of the year is all events, like event, and then in the spring, we sort of turn to focus on our own kind of, you know, bylaws and our elections and everything. So, so in the next PTA event is gonna be March 16th. We'd like to do a potluck, which they did last year, was really super fun. They were able to do a Chinese New Year. I think that's gonna be a little bit late for us to do like a Lunar New Year, but we'll still do a potluck. But at that meeting, we need to vote on a nominating committee. So the nominating committee is gonna be 3 people who are going to search for next year's officers. Laura said she would be on the nominating committee, so we'll need to ask for 2 more people. Now, I was on the nominating committee last year, which is how I got to where I am today. But I will assure anybody who's gonna work on the nominating committee this year, it's gonna be an easier job because unless somebody runs against us, Neelima is willing to stay on as secretary, I'm willing to stay on as president. John, we're gonna need to find a new treasurer, and I think Aaron Ossett is willing to be vice president. So we're gonna need, nominating committee's gonna have to search for someone who's willing to be treasurer next year. I mean, of course, anybody can run for any office at any time, but this is kind of what we're seeing in the future. So, we'll be trying to reach out to you guys to ask, can you be serve on the nominating committee? So the next meeting, we'll vote on the nominating committee. The meeting after that, which is on, I wrote all this down and then it didn't come out. There's a meeting after that where the nominating committee presents who's gonna be the run for office. And then the meeting after that, we vote for the officers. So I think we kind of need, and then in the middle of all that, we also have to vote on bylaws. So we basically have to try to get, I think, a bigger turnout than this for the last 3 meetings of the year, and we will do it with food. And
April 27th.
April
will be
27th,
the-
so that's when the nominating committee presents the slate of
Presents their
officers.
slate.
And then we have a June 1st meeting, which is the meeting where we hold the election for next year's
Yes.
officers. So that's gonna be some business we have to do over the last 3 PTA meetings of the year. Okay, and March 31st is bingo night, which is awesome. And then there's the fun run after that, which I wrote down what day it is. And now.
Fun run is, and the fitness fair is going to be May 12th.
Okay. And Erin wants to work on the fun run, which is great. She's a runner, very excited.
Great.
Fun.
Talk to Bill.
So she's determined to get the weather to comply. She was really mad when she found out they just ran around the basketball court. So, but.
So kind of safe.
So, yeah, oh, right, I know,
Well,
I so you
last
can't
year
have them
just
running around in the
basketball
mud, I
court.
mean,
Yeah,
it's- yeah.
around,
So, yeah, so, right, so she's gonna make the weather cooperate this year. Okay, so I think that's all I had on my list to mention. And then, John is not here for a treasurer's report, and so I don't know, what the budget is. But we did write, but he, actually, any report he would have presented today would have been kind of out of date, cause I never turned in my receipts for Gingerbread House. And I bet Jessica hasn't, oh, and then the other thing is Donuts with Dads. And we'll put out a flyer on
Right.
Donuts with Dads.
I think it's in March.
It's in March.
It's March.
Donuts.
Wait a minute.
It's a Friday in March.
Yep.
March 10th.
10th, is it?
Yeah, and then, and
Yeah,
one-
it is 10th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So March 10th, Donuts with Dads will be asking for donations for them. And we still have some Dunkin' Donuts gift cards.
Okay.
So, which will be super fun. That was, Muffins at Mom's was great. There was a
Yeah,
lot
it
of
was
people.
Yeah,
really
it was
nice.
good.
Well
It was really good.
And then we had tentatively scheduled science night, but we canceled that.
We canceled. We had just sort of thought about like we do. We really loved last year's science night so much, and we thought, could we replicate that in some way? And then we decided we can't. So, sorry. But we would have science night again sometime.
We did have, because that was offered to us free from that science, the Children's Science Museum. This year, we were able to send, we got a free field trip
Right,
in
yeah,
our
that's
fifth
right.
grade, because they're the ones that take the science SOL, so we sent them on the field trip, and they happened to run into Dave Marston, the senator there, state senator there, so it was a big picture op.
And then
That was like in September.
we do really want to try to schedule a cultural assembly, something. So we're still, Christiane and I are talking
We're
about.
working on it.
Can we find, because the assembly we had a science, a math magician
Right.
guy, and he was so fun. Like, it was
Yeah.
really
Yeah, the
fun.
kids loved it.
The kids
loved
went
it.
crazy for it.
Yeah.
It's cute.
We also are having, we have a string trio here from NSO that saw one group of kids today
My daughter
in
was one.
small groups in their specials classes. And then we've got another jazz group next week, kind of seeing the other part. And they're, so those are things that we are doing. We are having a pianist from the FSO that's going to meet with third grade. So, there are some things that we're able to get, kind of free, so.
That's great. Okay, so yes, so no treasurer's report, committee reports, I said restaurant nights. Laura isn't here in Richmond. I think this week is the last week to sign up for the enrichment program, so if you still haven't signed up, probably, since you're here, you probably have either signed up or not, chosen not to. Okay, so then we said new business, we talked about the nominating committee and the bylaws. Schools close next week and restaurant night. Okay, is there anything else that I haven't talked about? Yes.
I just, you were talking about the potluck from last year.
Yeah.
I had organized someone from the Virginia 529
Yeah.
to come talk about savings, college savings, and I can contact them again. It was a really good presentation, because they basically give you the information and then you kind of do it on your own through the website. I just wanted to put it out there because I didn't want to forget to email you. If you all want me to organize that again, I'm happy to do that. Tag on to the end of your PTA meeting if you want that.
Why don't we reach out and see if maybe we can do a
Yeah.
poll or something and see
Okay.
if people would be interested in that.
Sure.
I know that it did make that particular meeting into a very long one, so
Yeah.
we might want to think about, can she shorten her presentation or can we shorten it? Because there was a lot of stuff going on that night, so.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Okay, so then, so that's all from us. So then we can start our presentation on internet safety.
Well, if you don't know me, I'm Miss Gannon. I'm the school counselor. I think I've met all the parents that are here tonight. I want to introduce Alicia Clark. She is from the Office of Student Safety and Wellness here at Fairfax County. We're going to get her set up at the projector here. And she can describe a little bit of what actually that office is, the Office of Student Safety and Wellness. That would be great. They take care of a lot of our bullying, cyberbullying, drug information, a lot of information out to the schools and to the community. So she'll talk a little bit more about that, and we'll just get her set up. So maybe we'll just take a little break while she can set up. Have a cookie, get some more water.
Cookie break.
And is it we were video recording this so that we can post it later for anybody who's not here? Just have to maybe video record this presentation?
Oh, sure, sure. I wasn't ready for that, but yes, that's fine.
You don't have to watch. You don't have to watch it.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. But it might be awesome to have, so just send it to me so I can critique myself.
Oh, really?
Oh, you know what? We have to play this.
I was like, you're okay with it? Yeah. Everybody's got one. You did the bake sale at the election day, right? So it continues. But do you like to bake, or do you just like to eat bake? Yeah. I don't mind baking, but I do not like cleaning up after baking because it doesn't go well.
That's always the worst part.
Right. Truth. Right. Yeah. Cross contamination is the worst. I actually took this microbiology class in college. Ever since that day, can't get over it.
Let me turn the
It was
lights
in
off.
particular food microbiology class. So like, yeah.
Alicia, maybe you wanna, yeah, talk about your office stuff.
Evening. My name is Alicia Clark, and I'm with the Office of Student Safety and Wellness. I passionately and affectionately refer to my office as the SR&R office because that's what everyone associates our office with. So every year we are responsible for actually producing and updating the SR&R and actually disseminating that information to the schools and to the principals. In addition, there's a mirage of things that happen within our office. Our school social workers are out of this office as well as conflict resolution and peer mentoring. In addition to that, we have restorative justice, which a lot of schools are starting to implement as a additional, I don't want to say an additional consequence, but instead of suspending the kid, they look at this mediation piece where you can have the two participants come together in a circle and they talk about the incident from their different perceptions and then come to a common ground or a common understanding. And then my other job is I am a prevention educator, but I'm responsible for the alcohol, tobacco, and other drug seminars. So I do the drug awareness programs for both the students and the parents in the county. Restorative justice, peer mentoring, conflict resolution, counselors, SR&R, right? So I think that's just a hodgepodge of things that we do. But we're all about protecting the student and making sure that the student have the services in place that they need to be successful in Fairfax. And also if there are any questions in regards to discipline or procedures, that's what we also implement. Okay? So today I'm here because the last piece of my job is I do the internet safety presentations and bullying presentations for the county. Tonight we're just going to talk about 7 topics, and what I'll say is, you know, I taught high school for 13 years. I don't know how that happened because I still believe I'm 21. But, you know, just the way the internet has evolved and the way kids are using social media today are totally different than what we were brought up. And I joke with the kids, I said, you know, when I was in high school in 1997, 8, you know, we had, even how we did research was totally different. You know, we had the card catalog in the library, and the kids were like, what do you mean? It was like, you know, that big box with all the index cards, and you thumb through and try to figure out what your topic is or where their resources. So it's totally different. And whereas kids today, and you know, we say that, you know, some kids learn how to use an iPad or a tablet or a cell phone before they learn how to read. Then just think about it, they're manipulating these things. So they're very fluid with how to use their internet, whereas some of us still have some questions on how to use social media. I say that a lot of my students taught me how to use Snapchat because they were always using Snapchat. So how to do the different filters. It's trendy for them. It's and another piece of it is also about social acceptance on social media. So the first piece I'm going to talk about is internet permeance. I think we've heard the phrase, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And I joke with, and I said, well, that's if a camera is not around, or if the internet is not around. Today, kids have this perception that, you know, what I post I have the power to delete it. And once I delete it, it's gone. And that's not necessarily the case. There's an application that kids are using now called Snapchat. And Snapchat sells the idea that after 15 seconds or 24 seconds, whatever they posted is gone. But however, we all know how, you know, an IP address works or the internet works. Somewhere there's a log of that information. So that information isn't always gone. And sometimes, and I joke about, is if you post something on Facebook 10 years ago, guess what Facebook does now? It reminds you 10 years later that you know, you posted that, or you were there, or you felt a certain type of way about your ex, things like this. So it's very interesting. And also, you know, I think the bigger scheme for kids is I think they're starting to observe how social media actually impacts them. Witnessing how, if you're listening to the news, or as this is their news source on social media, how people are losing their jobs because of what they post on social media, or how some students are actually losing their scholarships because of what they post on social media. And I say it's more of, think about social media as a camera that goes off every single second of your life. And whereas where I was introduced to the internet at a later age, you know, and started using it more frequently in college when Facebook came about, you know, my autobiography or my internet autobiography is going to be totally different than theirs when they started using it at 10, 11, 12, 13. So people evolve. What you thought when you were younger is not necessarily going to be the same ideas that you have now. So be very careful as to what you're posting, and does it reflect you? Does it reflect the values that you want others to know about you, the values that your parents have instilled? And I think that's the conversation that we need to have with children, as is understanding that what you post is a direct reflection of yourself. So think of yourself as a brand. You are your own marketing tool. So if you don't want people to know it, don't post it. Or if it's not appropriate to share, or it may be controversial, think about what you're doing before you post things. Loss of control. Pictures, text, anything that we share can be shared with someone else. And I think I remember, I asked the kids, 5th and 6th grade kids that are come in contact with, how many of you ever shared a secret before? And they all raised their hands. And I said, now how many of you have been told a secret? They raised their hands, and I go, now how many of you actually kept that secret? And they go, they look, I was like, I want to say yes, but I want to say no. And I said, but that's what happens. When we tell someone a piece of information, we're hoping, we're trusting that they're keeping that information to themselves and that they're not sharing it with someone else. So when we send that text message, or when we post that picture on Instagram or Snapchat, we're hoping that the people we're sending it to is not sharing that piece of information. But the reality is that we can't stop someone once we give them the image or the text. It's kind of like giving someone a Christmas present and then say, hey, I want it back in the new year. It doesn't work that way. The great analogy I have, and I actually have from a lawyer, is the difference between public and private. And kids have this idea that if my settings are private, then, you know, those are the people that I trust, this is my circle. And whereas it's not public. But however, think about public, their school is public. Home is private. But the moment you invite someone into your home, you actually give them public access. So think about that information on social media. You're giving people access to what you're saying, what you're thinking. How many of you saw the Mariah Carey New Year's Eve non-performance? I don't know what it was. Right. It was awesome, right? This non-performance was captured online. You know, she was there, and she knows she's a performer, so she's expecting that this information is going to get out, it's going to be shared. But what she probably didn't expect was how the internet was going to take a hold of it, manipulate it to create memes, or even the San Antonio Spurs did a little mock with their mascot. She no longer had that control. She no longer could say, you can't post that, or you can't share this. And just think about those things. Or kids sometimes take pictures and they post it, and then their friends create memes. And memes are just a picture or image, and it usually has some type of catchy saying or text attached to it. So understand that what you share can be shared with someone else. It can be manipulated. to where it's not exactly what you said. I've learned that kids have become more technology savvy. So the things that we know how to do, they know how to do and some. Like Photoshop, I've never understood Photoshop, but they somehow know how to do it better than I do. So just that idea. Now, sharing too much. We live in a world now where information, they jokingly say it's not real life unless you post it on social media. If that breakup, if you're in a relationship, it's not real until it's on social media. So everything we do is documented in some form. And I have to admit that when I go out with my girlfriends to dinner, what do? I post that we're at a restaurant. I post the picture of the food or the plate that I ordered. And then I post that I'm home now and things like this. So everything we do is documented. And I tell kids is, that the more you post, you're allowing yourself to become vulnerable. And I say this because people are always watching. They're trying to identify your patterns. And then just recently my house was broken into. And I think I live in a fairly safe neighborhood. I think, I'm very aware of my surroundings, but I never realized that someone was actually looking at my patterns, like when I'm at work, when I'm leaving, when I'm gone. And just think, if you add that piece of social media, you're actually telling people more information than you would normally do to your neighbors. Also, we actually encourage parents not to share information like sometimes the school they go to or the bus stop or what time you're picking them up from school, just because that information becomes public knowledge. And you allow, like I said, the more you post, the more information you share, the more vulnerable you become. In addition, I think we've all done it. We've been on vacation. When we post pictures of our vacation. The rule of thumb now is to post those pictures when you come back, or to have, say, not my whole family's on vacation or something like that. Just being careful as to the message that you're sending to other people. In addition to this, we talk about overposters, and that's people who post way too much information. And I ask the kids, like, name some celebrity overposters, and they go Kim Kardashian, Taylor Swift, and they name a whole bunch of people. And I said, now, and I make the Kim Kardashian reference because recently she was robbed in Paris. And I said, well, she has a home in Miami. She has a home in LA. But how do they know she's in Paris? And how do they know she had, I think it was a $10 million diamond ring. It's like, how do people know this information? That's what she does. She posts everything on social media. So being very careful that you're not sharing too much. And that being said, we move on to online predators. Online predators are adults who usually create an online profile or persona to attract the attention of a youth. And I encourage kids to be very careful as to who they accept as friends. And I think the terminology that social media sites use is very catchy. Just in Facebook, they use the word friends, and some people have 500, 600, 1,000 friends. And I think to myself, I only really have five friends. But other people that I know, I associate with or went to school with. But when you use the term friend, you think of it as a trusted, a loyal person. Whereas sometimes they're my friend on Facebook. And I think the statistics said that you only had to interact with someone 5 times on social media before you started to consider them as a friend. And just think about that. Some of these people that they're interacting with, they've never met in person. You just know them from your Snapchat feed or your Instagram feed. And I make the analogy back to, do you remember Instant Messenger, Instant Messenger, and the Yahoo chat groups? And we all engaged in conversations, and the more you were in those chat groups, you allowed yourself to share more information with those people, because it was just a false, I don't want to say it's a false sense, but you just had that sense of you were comfortable with them and sharing their information. So, and my rule for kids is that if you don't know them in person, or if you can't go to school and see them, if they're not within your community, your church, or your grandparents' neighborhood, actually don't accept those people on social media. Because I like to have the tangible with the virtual world. And also, and back to online predators, and just be careful of people who say, who ask certain questions or give comments, very general comments as, I know your mom and dad. Well, mom and dad are very general terms, right? Or I know what school you go to. And I say this, if someone knows the neighborhood, they can Google what school you go to. So there's a lot of information online that people can actually figure out to use to have kids buy into to accepting them to be friends. Cyberbullying. Like I said, kids know how to use the internet very effectively, and sometimes the more you become comfortable using something, you actually start to become careless about what you're saying sometimes. I make the analogy to a math problem. When you first learn how to do that math problem, you were very slow, you were very methodical in your process. The more you understood the problem or how to complete the steps in the problem, you started to do it more swiftly. And then eventually you understood it, you did it very effectively, but sometimes you made errors because you were doing it too fast. And you just think about it, social media, they're on it all the time. So are they always gonna post what's appropriate or something that is positive? No. But sometimes kids are sharing things online that can take off and spread like wildfire. I tell the kids, the goal of social media, you think about Instagram, is to get as many likes as possible. Or for Twitter is to get how many retweets as possible. Everything is to go viral. So with cyberbullying, it can happen once, but it can be shared multiple times. Because in the county, in the state of Virginia, we look at three characteristics for bullying: the intent to cause harm, the power imbalance, and it's repeated over time. But however, with social media, it's posted once. Guess what? It happens very quickly. It can be shared with multiple people. And I make the reference back to a social media case in the 4th District Court in regards to MySpace. How many remember MySpace? Okay. The kids, when I talk about MySpace, it's like, what is that? I was like, never mind. MySpace, where a group of kids actually decided to create a fake page where they would post mean pictures and say mean things about a student. This young girl didn't know about it. The kids actually created this this page at home on their home server. So they thought they were fairly safe from school. Eventually, this young lady found out about the page. Someone at school accessed the page on the school server, and then the information was shared. So the principal decided to actually assign a consequence to the people who created these pages. And that's where the court hearing actually came in, where the parent said, my kid did it at home, the school doesn't have a right to, discipline. But the court ruled that if it causes a foreseeable disruption to the learning environment, the school has a right to assign a consequence. And I tell kids that's a very thin line. Think about it. If she no longer can concentrate because she finds out about that page in school, that's a disruption to the learning environment. If kids are talking about it and the teacher has to redirect their class, that's a disruption to the learning environment. If someone has to take time to address that situation, it's a disruption to the learning environment. So understanding that even though it happens or you created that at home, there's also not a consequence that can be assigned by the school, and then it's also a class 1 misdemeanor in the state of Virginia. So there's also that legal piece. So you can have it in the community and you can have that consequence at school. Sexting and trafficking. Sexting, I think, and I tell parents, like, this topic actually makes me uncomfortable. So I can only imagine how it makes you uncomfortable to even have the idea or thought that the kids could possibly be sharing inappropriate pictures. Just understand that, this is happening. And, I'll never forget my first presentation I did. I was with students, and it was a 5th grade student. And I said, what are some of the internet rules that your parents have for you? And her response was, and this is the first response, no nude pictures. And I go, wow, like, I wasn't ready for that. And it's just, it says that parents are actually having these conversations with kids earlier and earlier. Where middle school, you probably, or high school, you got the birds and the bees conversation. but now kids are having it as early as elementary about what not to send or what not to post or to share online. Sex trafficking, just trafficking in general, has been an issue, and I must say I was unaware of this issue until about 3-4 years ago in the county. As I told someone, when you say you live in Fairfax or you work in Fairfax, everyone has this grand place, this perfect world. But this actually has been an issue in Fairfax County, and I never thought it was a problem. But trafficking is, in form of sex trafficking and then labor trafficking. And it's actually another form of we would say bullying, where you're manipulating a person to do a certain act. And in their mind, they have this idea that, if I don't do this, you're going to harm my family, or harm someone that I care about, or you're going to harm myself. So, they actually manipulate young men and women into these crime rings. In this video, I'm not going to play it because it's actually a little bit heavy, and it's actually on the Blackboard site for physical education, because this is a piece they do discuss. I mean, not physical education, family life education, or it could be in the health class too, where it's on Blackboard to be pre-approved. Where there was a ring in Fairfax County where they actually recruited 800 young girls, and the scariest part about it is that they actually said that of the 800 girls, not one of them reported it. And just think about it. You have people who know this is going on and they're not speaking up, or the girls are too scared, or young men are too scared to speak of it. I was actually speaking to a principal, and she said, she actually experienced this firsthand, where she actually had to go and help one of her students from this ring. And I think just recently there was an Uber driver who helped or rescued a young girl from, sex trafficking. So I think it is starting to become more known, and people are more aware of what's going on. Okay, with that, we're going to transition to applications and what some of your kids could be doing on social media. If you first look at these apps, what do you think they are? Okay, the fact that I asked means it's a trick question, right? Okay. Kick is a social media app, and I'm going to talk about it later, but if you look at these, you just see a star and a calculator. And honestly, you'll be very surprised at what they could be. This one was behind the calculator. You see it? They're photos. So this is what we call secret apps, or what people may call vaults, where kids can actually hide the information that they don't want you to see on their phones. And the scary part is that you can just go to your app store, your iTunes or your Play Store, type in secret app, and then there's a whole list that comes down. And the calculator app, it actually functions as a calculator, but until you enter the right code, it doesn't open anything. So it's still at first sight and at first use, you can think it's just give me the math problem, but it's actually things where they're hiding information. And if you look at this one, it's just music notes. So what are you going to think? This is what my kid is using to play music, or their music source. Okay. Now, Kick, the kids always affectionately remind me that Kick is dead. And that's because Kick actually has disabled everything. I would say is GPS located, or has a GPS location device on it. But Kick has actually disabled the ability to use it in a school area or a school zone. So a lot of kids can't access that piece. So therefore, they're not using it as much or at all. But there's a web browser in Kick. There's a vault in Kick. There's also the direct messaging, instant messaging piece in Kick that kids are using. Now, say these are the top 12. And I think the interesting piece, and this is the first slide I show kids when I do this presentation, and they get really, really excited about it. And then my friend Joe's, coworker Joe, he said, and then you disappoint them. I said, how? He said, because you tell them that they can't use it. I was like, I do tell them. But legally, it's a federal law that says, especially a lot of the social media apps, is that you have to be 13 years or older to actually use these applications. And what I've witnessed is that there are some fourth graders who are using these apps. And to me, that's scary because are they socially mature enough to handle the content that you could possibly find on these applications? No. And then, as I said earlier, think about it. It's your autobiography. Everyone loves Amazon, right? I love Amazon. I was looking for a pair of shoes on Amazon. When I logged into Facebook, guess what I saw? That exact pair of shoes. So everything is tracked. Everything is being used to log into multiple accounts. You use your Facebook account to log into Pinterest. You use your Gmail address to log into YouTube or Musical.ly. If you have Facebook, you can also, actually, Facebook owns Instagram. So you can use that. You can, all these link back to each other somehow, some way. And anything you do online, it actually, even with Instagram, if you're searching for something, now they have an ad feature. That ad pops up. So all these apps are linked back to each other. The kids, they question Minecraft and Clash of the Clans because they're gaming applications. But talking to a parent yesterday, in order to use Minecraft, you have to have a group of friends. And there's a chat feature, and there are some people who, there are adults who actually, it's a game, so there's a wide array of ages or people who are using these games. So, you know, if they have to be you have to have I think it's called, I think they use the term friend or a gamer profile to use Minecraft and Clash of Clans. But if they have that chat feature, that opens the line of communication. And each application has a privacy setting. But if you notice anything, if you look at your phone in the morning, sometimes it tells you these applications have been updated. And when there's an update, things change. Snapchat, which is the ghost, they sell the idea that things disappear as the reason why the term ghost. But it was one point where you couldn't replay something, but now they updated and you can actually replay a video or replay the picture that they posted. So, and Instagram, the top left, there are individuals or people who are using it, and this is all the selfie phase, where they post the pictures, and if they don't have enough likes, they'll delete the picture and then post another one in hopes that, you know, they get more likes. And that goes back to that social acceptance piece, where they're looking for that acceptance in their social groups or from someone online. So making sure that we have that conversation. Okay. A new feature in Facebook, and the kids will always tell you that Facebook is for us older people. And they said we don't use Facebook, but I've noticed is that students do have Facebook profiles, they just may not be using it as frequently. Now, Facebook has a new feature called a secret conversation, and this is similar to the app called WhatsApp, which you can actually send direct messages via the internet, but it's encrypted, so no one can break that code. And actually, I believe Facebook owns WhatsApp. As we know, Facebook comes to be the source of everything, is what I'm learning. So they say the FBI can't even hack these messages. So once you send this message to someone, you can set a time limit. It could be 2 seconds, 5, or 15. Once that person reads that message, it is deleted or it is deleted. So you can't go back and see it. But you can see that this person is having a secret conversation. You just can't reveal the content of it. Now, what can parents do? This is a device called Circle. It is by Disney. It is something that I was made aware of at another presentation. I think it's a pretty cool device. So I'm going to show you the quick video. And you can, as a parent, you can probably relate to it.
So I'm a mom, and I spend more time trying to manage my kids and their devices than anything else. Talking to my kids usually looks like this. Grant, 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 but not anymore, now that I have Circle. Circle is a new way for families to manage content and time online for every device in the home. Pair Circle with your Wi-Fi and manage everything with the app. So what can Circle do, you ask? How about set a time limit on Facebook for my daughter? Circle actually adds up the time she spends on each of her devices and then cuts her off when she's reached her limit. I can also set up a filter with Circle to make sure my boys don't end up on parts of the internet they shouldn't even know about. Just set the filter profile by age, and then it's easy to customize it by app and category. But my personal favorite, I can pause the internet. And did you ever wish your kids' devices had a bedtime? Now they do. Just set a sleep time and an awake time. And just like that, me time. Hello, Netflix. And if I want to know how many hours my youngest spent on Minecraft this week compared to last, Circle makes it easy. Wonder how much time I spent on Pinterest. I can also manage Circle from anywhere. Circle will notify me with things like when that Facebook time limit is finally reached. And if it weren't awesome enough already, Circle partnered with these nice folks to make it even, well, more awesome. And now for some much needed family time. Thanks, Circle. Grant.
We all know that once they have a device in front of them, sometimes they are, you know, someone said it's mom mute, where your mom is talking and they just put you on mute. I haven't experienced that yet, but I think it's real. And this is just a cool device. You get to track the amount of time that your kids are online or they're using a certain application. You can limit the time that they're online. And I think this device is only $100, which I think is reasonable. But I strongly and will always encourage parents to have conversations with their kids about appropriate use.
Grant.
Okay. Also, iPhone, Apple, within their systems, they do have a device, a setting, and it's called guided access. So if you have, if your kids are using your phone or even theirs, you can set it a PIN code, which will actually lock the screen to whatever application they're currently using. So if you have YouTube Kids on your phone, but you always allow them to use it, but somehow they end up on the regular YouTube, you can use guided access to lock the screen to YouTube Kids. So for that hour or that 15 minutes, they can only use that application. On Android devices, I am an Android user. There is a thing called restricted profiles. And honestly, I can't figure it out. But I think it's, because every time they update, they change the features. But I know it's on your tablets and some of your mobile phones, but not on all mobile Android phones. Okay. What else can parents do? Model good behavior. Spoken with one parent, and she said her rule is when friends come over to play, they collect all cell phones and they stay in the kitchen cabinets. The idea is that if you're coming to play, guess what? You're playing and not using, you know, your games. Bring out Monopoly, Uno, something, a baseball bat. You get kids more active. Also, the idea of modeling good behavior. And I admit that the first thing I do in the morning is check my phone. Actually, I hit snooze 5 times. But I then check Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, and then I check my work email because you know you have to know what you're going to walk into at work. Those things, but at the end of the night, guess what they do? They check all these before they go to sleep, and then they check them all when they wake up. So just modeling that behavior, and some people have implemented that, you know, that cell phones are charged in the kitchen at night, and you only get them as you're walking out the door in the mornings. That way, once you have started your day, that's when you get your phone. A parent asked me, well, I know what my kid is doing. I can trust my kid, but it's other kids that they're worried about. And I always tell parents to say that's the hardest piece because you can't control or regulate someone else's kid. But I tell them when it was time for me to get in trouble when I was in school, my friends never called me because they knew my parents' expectations. My parents were very visible. They were very clear about what their expectations were for me. So I think, you know, it's one thing to communicate it to our kids, but re-emphasizing it and telling the kids that are friends with our children what your expectations are for them as well. So when you come to our house, my expectation is that you're not using the internet or that you're not using your cell phone. Just having those conversations, or what is appropriate for your child or what you want your child to be aware of. Also, parents equal love. I tell kids, you know, the one thing parents want to do is love you and protect you, but they can't protect you if you're not communicating with them, if you're not fully honest with them as to what you may be doing online. So I always encourage kids, if you have passwords on your phones, your parents should know those passwords, and that could be something you do as a contract. I was always amazed with my friend. It seemed as if he knew every single thing about his daughter. And then I realized he had an app called SMS Backup, so he was reading all her text messages. It worked for him, but then I was amazed, but she also communicated everything with him because it was very clear as to what he expected of her, and had random phone check-ins. It could be Wednesday night, or it can be the morning before she goes to school, where he will just take her phone, put in her password, and just look through what's going on. And it's about trust and establishing that trust and saying, these are my expectations, this is what I expect of you, and just being consistent in how you regulate it. Are there any questions you may have?
So when do kids get phones? I have a first grader.
That is up to the parent. I've noticed that it's a range. There are some kids who have them in second grade just to communicate with their parents or their older siblings. I think it's more of when you feel responsible, that your kid is responsible enough to handle this. Think more 5th, 6th grade is appropriate than earlier grades. That would be my opinion. I think some principals or counselors would agree with that. But it depends, it varies. And what I know is that, they may not have a phone, but they may have an iPad. So it's just, what device are you giving them? Because you can give them a phone, but it doesn't have to be a smartphone. You can just give them that flip phone. They may not think it's cool, but if it's just to communicate, then that's what they're using it for.
And I think they have like phones now that I think on a watch or maybe on a regular phone where it'll only accept a call from you and they can only call you or something. I don't know. I've heard of that. I don't really know if that's true, but I don't know how much they cost. But it's only used for communication between the kids and the parents if there's an emergency or whatever. So I was going to ask, for this dad who has the passwords and goes in and does the random checks, if the kids are now using these secret apps, you can't possibly, even if you have their passwords and know everything, you don't, because they're hiding it, right? They're going to be faster and better than we are, and we won't have any idea, and whatever controls we put in, they'll figure out how to hack, and it's really scary.
It is, because you realize that when you think you are 10 steps ahead of them, but they're actually a football step ahead of you. A football field ahead of you. So it's about the communication and as to, constantly taking advantage of those learning moments. If it's something on TV or I think there was an article about, I think it was in Maryland where a kid charged $14,000 on his mom's credit card because he was using a gaming application. And just think, at that point, as a parent, I would have had that conversation.
But I'm sure he wasn't really old enough to be using it anyway.
Right.
But, yeah.
So mom, actually, I think the credit card company said we'll forgive $1,400, but you have to. I think she ended up going to Google and I guess went to court or something, and she didn't end up having to pay it. But think about it. You put your credit card on your phone that you give your kids, and there's this idea between virtual money and real money, and they don't understand the difference. And just even with us, when we have our bank card, we use it more frequently than if we actually had cash. We used to hold on to cash a lot longer. So the kids are doing the same thing, but they don't have the cash, and they don't understand necessarily how to budget money at an early age. So they're just buying things. So just taking that as a learning opportunity, or there's stories of how people are using things on social media. And the reality is that we want our kids to make good decisions, but the frontal lobe, the brain, is not fully developed until age 25, 26. And that's scary because, when we go to college, we think we're adults, right? But then some of your decision making is questionable. And I think there was a this is in Maryland again, a University of Maryland student who actually sent pictures to someone else on social media, and now they're using those pictures to blackmail this kid. So that, you know, these are the things that are going on around them, and just, you know, having those conversations, or how could you prevent this from happening, things like that.
How do kids figure out what the next app is going to be once, you know, an app develops a fix that they don't like? How do they kind of coalesce around a new thing?
It's like word of mouth, and as I say in the classroom, is that, you know, I never knew about Snapchat until the kids started talking about Snapchat. Actually, or the kids started using Snapchat, and they would hold the phone in front of them and dance and do pictures and sing songs. But it's word of mouth, and I think never underestimate the power of the communication piece. Is that someone knows about it from another friend, and it's passed on. And sometimes it's just being on YouTube, and they can Google this information. Like, the power of Google is amazing. You can find how to change a tire, how to bake a cake, and then also how to clean a gun. You know, it's just different things, and information is out there as well. But it's honestly word of mouth. But, and speaking of that, the kids were actually, a group of kids yesterday told me about this app called Talking Angela. Have any of you heard about it? And my understanding is, I have to do more research, but it's, you remember the gigapets or the digipets that we used to have? So it's an application that they're using on their phone, but the kids are actually concerned about it because it's asking information as to where do you live, how old are you? And I always encourage kids that anything that asks you where you live or how old you are, you probably should not be using it. And anything that requires your personal information, your parents should definitely be filling it out. But then I think one of the kids did say it was on the news, and it was some type of tracking application, but it was the whole idea of the virtual pet, like our digipets or gigapets, what would they call?
Tamagotchi.
Those, that whole idea. So it's kind of like on your phone now instead of actually having a different device. Any other questions?
I was just going to ask if you have any advice for Minecraft specifically, because so I have a 2nd grader now who's really just gotten into Minecraft, but I have a 7th grader also, and she started out harmlessly interested in Minecraft, and my husband was kind of monitoring, and so I was sort of out of it. And then I realized, you know, a year into it, that she had friends that she had met online, and she was playing, and she was chatting constantly while she was playing, this like texting lines within Minecraft, and then eventually she started FaceTiming, so she would be FaceTiming with other kids while they were playing Minecraft. So like now they're like co-joining, you know, forms of social media. But I think, you know, for her we kind of roped it in. But my 2-year-old is just in the foothills, and now I'm like, how do we do this right this time? Like, how do we prevent that?
And the thing is I don't think FaceTime is a feature of Minecraft, right?
Totally unrelated. She just, you know, was able to get them both going simultaneously.
Yeah, and I think it's just having a conversation. Okay, this is a feature that's in the application. Identify some friends that you know at school who play this game, and then maybe going parent to parent and having a conversation as to, this is the game that our kids are playing. Let's have a conversation with them as to what our expectations are, and understand that this is the trusted circle as to who you should communicate. But it goes back to communication, because I don't think Minecraft has parental controls because it's the gaming app, but it's just maybe you could possibly disable the chat feature, but I think you have to chat to play the game as well. So it's very tricky.
So I think you can play standalone, and then you can play on a group server. And we experimented. My husband set up a private server where she invited a few of her friends so they could play together, friends she knew from school. But she said in the end that it's boring to play alone because the other characters that are in the game, you end up interacting with them. That's what makes it interesting. So, but I think with her, if we had said from the beginning, like, you will not group play Minecraft, it's a solo endeavor. Sorry.
Right.
That might have been a better idea.
And sometimes it is, and it's like, never be scared to say no. And I will say this, that having access to the internet is a privilege, it's not a right. Having access to these devices is a privilege. You be comfortable, do what's comfortable for you. And if it's her not using this application, then say that to her. Like I said, kids may not understand. And how many of us, our parents told us no, we never understood why they told us no, but later on we understood why that was set in place. Any other questions?
Do you have any guideline, like written guidelines that we could give out to parents or something that they can look at off of the Fairfax County website that just kind of to summarize the stuff that you've done to say, because I keep hearing you say expectations and have a constant line of communication and you know in today's day and age it's getting harder and harder because we're on our technology too and
Right.
busy and making time for those things are so important. It's kind of nice sometimes to have a little written something to help remind you or help guide you in, oh, I didn't really talk about that, or well, we thought she was just playing a game, and then you realize,
Right.
wow, this is like pretty easy to, you know, it kind of snowballs and of all the things that they can do that we don't even know
I
about.
signed up for Common Sense Media
Yeah,
Right.
Common
subscription
Sense Media
last
is good.
year after the presentation last year, and that was great. Actually, that helped me really become familiar with some of the things to avoid, which was good.
Right, and FCPS uses Common Sense Media. If you go to the FCPS website and just put digital citizenship and the internet safety in, it will take you to this webpage. So it would take you to the VDOE Internet Safety website. What is digital citizen, digital privacy, students, families, and here are resources for families. And then they use a lot of the Common Sense Media stuff. On how to talk with your kids, privacy and parental settings. I have not figured out how to use this new website yet. But there's a link. So it connects you with different places as I keep save, NetSmart, Family Online Safety Institute. But there's also a page with additional resources, and I think it might be on my side. But
I heard of another resource that was actually like you could pay for it. It was, I think it was like $150, but you could pay for a scan, some sort of like, there was some organization that would actually do like an audit of your child's
I think it was that
computer.
one that I had found that gave you like the thumbs up or the thumbs down for the different apps, and it could educate you on that. And if you wanted to buy something that would scan your child's phone to kind of look and see if they had, I'd have to go back to my office and look for that one, because that was a really good, that would be a good one to have on there too.
Okay.
But they do advertise that thing. You don't have to get it, but it's kind of nice for information because it was very brief.
Brief.
It wasn't a lot of reading on all the different apps.
I thought it was a lot of money, but I think if you know feel you're totally in the dark and you need someone who knows what they're looking for to look, that resource is out there.
Okay. And do you remember how much it was?
It was around $100, $150,
Okay.
something like
And
that.
it's called Scan.
I don't remember the name.
Okay. I can do some
maybe
research. Under the digital citizenship, talking with your child, they they do have the family media agreement, so you can use this, or a customizable device contract, which you can use. If you do look at it more in detail, they do have different documents that you can use. Like I said, they use Common Sense Media. So there's different, on the school side, lessons that they can pull from the intranet. And I can share that link with you.
Okay.
That they can use. Also, I'm developing a tip sheet, and just moving from the school side, I realized that everything has to go through an approval process, where if you did it in class, you just kind of shared it. When you're central office, you have to go through the approval process. So I'm waiting for that to be approved, and I'll share that piece with you guys as well. Any other questions? It was, I forgot I was on the website.
Are parental controls, are those good to do? Are they easy to, access?
They're
Are
easy.
Some people say, oh, the parental controls, I tried to look it up on YouTube one time and I didn't think it was so easy to access, and then I couldn't tell if that was really gonna help anything or not.
I think they're hit or miss, because some controls are great, but I think about the YouTube one where you can set the parental controls. So once the kid realizes that you can log into YouTube with a different email that you create, they just bypass those controls. So once they realize what year you are going to be older than 13, you know, or older than 18, those things happen.
I got a free trial for YouTube Red over the holidays,
Mhm.
and YouTube is a big concern of mine because my kids love watching like the toy unboxing videos, and I have little kids, and then they also like to watch like the DIYs, you know, like the ladies make the face masks or whatever. But it can lead, you know, because it'll be like one video and another video, and then all of a sudden you like look over and you're like, oh my god, you know.
Right.
But I thought YouTube Red took away the ads, and the ads were also super annoying, and I thought not always appropriate to the content that they were watching, and then, so I thought that was really good. And then it also, I don't know, I thought it gave them a little like better experience. It's like $10 a month. So, but I mean, I don't know if I would pay for it. I got a free subscription, but I thought it was a better, safer experience on YouTube Red than on YouTube.
Okay. Have you tried YouTube Kids at all?
Well, yeah, YouTube. They tend to not be as satisfied with YouTube Kids because it's not getting, because they like. I don't know. They get frustrated with it, and it doesn't give them the same history. It doesn't give them the same search. I don't know, but I have tried it before.
Okay.
The other good thing about YouTube Red, I haven't fooled around with it myself, but I understand that you can download content for viewing later.
Yeah.
So you can download things for your kids and then let them view it later, and they don't have access to the entire
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
library.
Yes, which is also a nice feature,
Yeah.
and also for like airplane and stuff. If there's stuff really big.
Right. That's good. In addition to, as I said earlier, our office does provide mentoring programs. So if you know a kid who will benefit from having a mentor, or if you are an adult who would like to mentor a kid, feel free to contact Kristen Woodward, who's actually on maternity leave, but call her number isn't routed to someone else. And they can get you the information about setting up a mentor or doing your mentor application. It was great being here with you tonight. As I said, Stefan Maskell is my coordinator, so if you have any questions in regards to SNR, please call him, not me. But anything about internet safety, any questions that you have, feel free to reach out to me. I do know the county is looking to develop a webinar class on digital citizenship and internet safety. So that's something that could be possibly rolled out of the fall of next year, and it's something for parents and students. If you can, this is the link on program evaluation to my evaluation tool. If you can scan the QR code or write the URL down for later, I'll actually email it to you. Just fill it out. It is a part of my evaluation process, but all the feedback you give helps prepare a quality presentation. Thank you guys. I hope it didn't keep you too late.
Thank you. Slides on our website?
Yeah. Just give me an email.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming.
Great.
Can we just go back
Like,
to
there's
some
gotta be
other
silver
time?
lining somewhere, right? There's gotta be